When we think of the Linux kernel, OpenStack, or Python, we realize that beyond the code, it's governance models that shape their success. Governance is how a community makes decisions, distributes power, manages conflicts, and sets its direction. And often, that's where everything is decided. A project can be technically brilliant but collapse without clear governance, or, on the contrary, thrive because it has built a solid structure that inspires trust. If you're watching this video, you're probably a creator or entrepreneur in the open source ecosystem. You have a vision, a project, maybe even a community already forming around your work, but you also feel this central pain point. How do you ensure the continuity and stability of a project when too much still depends on you, your personal decisions, or the goodwill of contributors? You know that your biggest risk is not technical. It's organizational. I've seen this reality from the inside. For over 15 years, I've worked on major open source projects like OpenStack and the Python ecosystem, as well as for companies like Red Hat. I participated in OpenStack's collective governance structures, and I closely observed Python's transition after Guido van Rossum. What I've learned is that there is no single perfect model, but rather different ways to structure a project, each with its strengths and its vulnerabilities. The first model is the Linux kernel. It's a model centered around a strong figure, Linus Torvalds, who remains the ultimate arbiter of decisions. Everything flows through him, but in reality, the project is supported by a huge base of maintainers, each responsible for their subsystem. It's an inverted pyramid, broad and distributed at the base, concentrated at the top. This model has the advantage of being efficient, fast, and providing clear authority. But it relies on a nearly irreplaceable figure. That is both its strength and its weakness. As long as Linus is there, Linux moves forward with confidence. Without him, a symbolic void would emerge, even if the technical structure could absorb the shock. The second model is OpenStack. Here, governance was designed from the beginning to be collective and democratic. Decisions do not rest on one person but on a foundation, committees, and regular elections. Each project has elected leaders, contributors vote, and the community decides together on the big directions. It's a model that distributes power, gives everyone a voice, and reflects the diversity of its stakeholders: independent developers, large companies, and users. The price to pay is a certain slowness and sometimes painful compromises. But the strength of this model is that it is perceived as legitimate. No one can say OpenStack belongs to a single person. The third model is CPython. For a long time, Python was led by Guido van Rossum, the self-proclaimed benevolent dictator for life. This model worked well as long as Guido carried that role. But in 2018, when he decided to step down, the community had to reinvent its governance. It chose a middle path, a steering council elected by active contributors. This council now makes the strategic decisions. It's an interesting balance. No longer dependent on one person, yet still a small group able to decide efficiently while being legitimized by a democratic election. These three models show us something fundamental. There is no universal governance. But there is one common rule. Governance must inspire trust and reflect the voice of the community. Without that, you create uncertainty, and uncertainty destroys trust, contributions, and adoption. This is where I'd like to propose a first concrete step, something you can implement right now to lay the foundations of your governance. Adopting a useful voting system, such as Condorcet voting, for your community's major decisions. Why Condorcet? Because it allows each voter to rank the options according to their preferences, and it selects the choice that would win against all others in head-to-head matchups. Unlike a simple majority vote, it avoids the perverse effect where an extreme option wins simply because it gathered a relative majority. With Condorcet, the result better reflects the global consensus, the true voice of your community. Take a simple example. You need to choose your project's next priority: improving documentation, strengthening security, or developing a new feature. With a standard vote, if half plus one choose the new feature, the other two options are discarded, even though in reality, a majority might have preferred improving documentation first if they'd been asked to rank their preferences. With Condorcet, the final choice corresponds to what the community considers most useful and legitimate. It's a small change, but it sends a strong signal. Your contributors see that their voice truly matters, and your decisions gain legitimacy. What you can do today is set up a survey tool based on Condorcet voting for your next important decisions. Online solutions already exist. On my Patreon page, you'll find the details and methodology you need to implement Condorcet voting within your project. What matters isn't the technical complexity, but the signal you send. Your governance takes into account diverse voices, and your decisions are not about power struggles but about building consensus. This is what transforms a fragile open-source project, dependent on a leader or a small inner circle, into a sustainable project that inspires trust. Because at its core, governance is not an abstract word. It's how you treat your contributors, how you value their involvement, and how you build collective legitimacy. So ask yourself this: which model best inspires your project today? The Linux kernel, centered on a strong figure, OpenStack, based on open democracy, or CPython, balancing effective leadership with electoral legitimacy? And most importantly, what can you put in place right now to strengthen trust around your governance? The first step is simple. Adopt Condorcet voting for your major decisions, and show your community that their voice truly matters. It's a small gesture, but it's the foundation upon which you can build clear, strong, and lasting governance. To go further, you can subscribe to my YouTube channel and discover all the elements that make an open-source project sustainable. If you enjoyed this video, like it, and turn on the notification bell. How does governance work in your projects? Share your experience in the comments.